We are now live. I want to quickly say hello to all the agents that are going to be tuning in here. Thanks for tuning in. Here's how this is gonna roll. We are going to do quick introductions of all the people we have on our panel here, and I'm going to give them all a second to say who they are, what they do, and then we're going to have a little word from Greg. And then what we're going to try to do is we're going to organize this in such a way where we're going to start with the most simple scenarios of agents who are just solo agents out there who are no incorporations, no S corps, no LLCs, and you're just a regular agent out there in the workplace. We're going to start there, and then we're going to move down toward more complex scenarios as we go. So we have a list of probably 20 questions we've collected over the past 3 days. So we're going to go ahead and start answering those questions from the top once we get rolling, and then we'll look and see what kind of questions we have from the audience here. So anyways, we're going to start rolling right now. So why don't we start with Eric Daly. Why don't you start introducing, then we'll go Eric, Laura, and Marcus.
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Paul. My name is Eric Daly, and I'm a business attorney with the law firm Miller Johnson, based here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I have been working with clients pretty much around the clock over the last few weeks, it seems like, but I've lost track of time on their different options navigating this obviously very difficult and turbulent time for small businesses, independent contractors, sole proprietorships, and the like. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Laura.
All right. I am a tax principal with Rehmann. I work primarily with real estate brokers, developers, agents, and building owners and operators in the construction industry. As our cohorts at Miller Johnson can attest, this time frame, these new laws that have come out are very complicated, and I have to apologize on behalf of my lawmakers for making it that way. But they really are trying to get monies into the hands of our small businesses as quickly as possible. So I will kibitz in on any tax-related items that you have questions on.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Marcus?
All right. My name is Marcus Campbell. I'm a labor and employment attorney with Miller Johnson in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I've been doing labor and employment work for 19 years now. And one of my specialties is unemployment benefits and tax. And from the questions that Paul shared before this meeting began, it looks like a lot of your questions are on unemployment. And I will do my absolute best to answer every single question. As Laura alluded to, everything is not clear right now. They pushed a 900-page bill through Congress in about 3 days, and the president signed it. So we are still trying to figure out exactly how this is going to work. Even Michigan's Unemployment Insurance Agency isn't 100% clear, but hopefully I can give you enough good information today to help you and get you moving forward in the right direction.
Great. Thank you for doing that, guys. Greg, did you want to say a few words here?
Letting Eric introduce himself.
Oh, yeah, Eric. Deal Doctor Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric Graham, and I'm one of the deal doctors with 5-Star Real Estate. Also behind the scenes trying to help consolidate all of this information from a compliance standpoint and allowing me to be one of the go-to individuals to help navigate the company and provide feedback on helping agents in some of their questions.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Eric. So anyway, welcome to all the 5-Star agents. And we're looking forward to finding some answers here today. So hopefully we can help clarify some things. It's good to be with all of you. Not easy meeting like this. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but our 100% focus today is on you, the agents, and what kind of things you can avail yourself of in this tenuous time. I'm actually starting to get used to this webinar format here, as it seems like we do 2 to 3 or 4 of these things per day now. And who knows, maybe this is going to be our future. You know, there will be shifts after this is all over. And one of the shifts may be we're doing a lot less driving around and we're doing a lot more video. I don't know, but that could be. So one of the things I just wanted to say to you guys is that, you know, a crisis like this has a tendency to get us hyper-focused, and that's probably a good thing. And the question, you know, for all of us is not when this will end, as it will end, but who you will be when it is over. We don't want to focus on the doom and gloom, nor do we want to focus on a Pollyanna approach. Obviously, your decisions and efforts these coming days should be a whole lot less about emotion and a lot more about logic. And it's tough to make solid decisions when there's high emotion. And so we just want to encourage you. We can all learn. We can all become better people. We can all become stronger, and we can serve others. And so I just want to thank Paul and Eric and the others here today for all they're doing to help clarify this for the agent community and going forward. So thanks again. Look forward to this meeting today, and I'll turn it back to Paul.
All right, Marcus, you and I were talking a little earlier about this list of questions that we have here. And like I said, we're going to try and bring as much clarity as we can from the more simple scenarios down through the more complex. So Eric, what's the first question? I'm pulling up my list of questions right now. And it looks like, just to give the agent community an example of how we're going to look at this, we're looking at as a standard realtor is an unincorporated realtor, meaning they have no LLC, no S Corp, and they have no staff. So this is your average realtor who's just out there doing business day in, day out. So we're going to start with that type of a line of questioning first. Let's start with question number one. Can realtors file for unemployment?
Yep, this is Mark Campbell, and the good news is they can now that the federal law has passed. The CARES Act, which just passed at the very end of last week, it includes, there's 3 sections that provide 3 different types of unemployment benefits out there. There's Section 2102, Section 2104, and Section 2107. Section 2102 is going to apply to unincorporated agents, sole proprietor agents, perhaps if you have an LLC, but you pay yourself through a K-1. Anybody who has receives their pay via a 1099, normally in those circumstances, those individuals can't qualify for any type of state unemployment benefit. That's because they have no recorded wage history. You file self-employment taxes and you pay your self-employment taxes, but you don't report or pay any wages or pay anything to the unemployment agency. And whenever somebody files a claim, the agency has to look back and make sure that they actually have earnings over the last year and a half. There's very specific calculations, and if you show that you've never reported any earnings, then you're not going to be eligible for unemployment. So that's why maybe some of you out there now who have already filed, you might have received something back from the agency. In Michigan, it's the Unemployment Insurance Agency. You may have received something back saying, sorry, you cannot establish a benefit year, or you do not have enough wages, something to that effect. And that's because there's either no or too few reported wages on you over the last year and a half, so you cannot establish a claim. Section 2102 is designed to deal with that. So sole proprietors, LLC members who are paid through a K-1, anybody who receives a 1099 for their services, those are the agents that will be able to file those claims. Now, I'm from Michigan. Currently, right now, the state unemployment agency is not equipped to handle those claims, but they will be soon. How soon? I don't know. But if you actually go onto the UIA's website now, you will actually see that they tell you not to apply. Currently, the governor has granted an extension of 28 days for filing these types of claims. So technically, you're in good shape. Do file right away. And if you do, your claim will likely be rejected, stating that you do not have any wages, so you cannot establish a claim. So I know everybody wants to get going on this as soon as possible, but for anybody who's unincorporated, like a sole proprietor agent, LLCs, anybody out there who does not file any quarterly wage reports with the Unemployment Insurance Agency, that's that is a form 1028. Those individuals should wait. They should wait, and the agency will let you know on their website when they are able to handle those claims.
So just to yes. Clarify, no one has missed a window here.
No, that is the good thing. No one has missed a window. Normally, you have a very short period to file your claim. Otherwise, it's late and you can't collect any back pay. This has been extended for 28 days. So if you were to file a claim 27 days from now, you could go all the way back 28 days and collect unemployment for those, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks of unemployment.
Mark, can you clarify? Normally, the start date is the last date of employment, and then you move forward from there for your claim period. For
Correct.
Independent agents, that's really, when are they going to start? When would they measure that start date? So you say 28 days. When does 28 days start?
Sure. And that's one of the things that they'll ask you when you're applying is, what was your last day of work? And that's difficult for somebody who's an independent agent who, is only paid once the commissions get paid, and it's unclear. What I recommend is the last day that you stop receiving any money. The last commission you got, that's the date that I would use as the day that is technically your last day of work. And that's important for Section 2102 benefits because those are capable of being collected retroactively. The agency is not set up to deal with those yet, but technically those benefits can be paid going all the way back to, let me pull it up here, I think it's January 27 of 2020. So if you haven't received any pay going all the way back to January 27, 2020, once you file, if you qualify for the Section 2102 benefits, which are called the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program benefits, you should be able to retroactively collect the benefits going all the way back to January 27th. The agency is going to have
$600. Is that just the $600 that would go retroactive? So if we're looking at Michigan unemployment start date and layering that with the federal unemployment benefit. So let's give an example here. My last closing occurred in January. I haven't received any benefits then. If I apply for Michigan unemployment now, that's obviously 28 days beyond my last closing. So what would my benefits potentially look like?
Well, what your benefits should be, let's say you qualify for the maximum amount of state unemployment, which is currently $362 a week. And then on top of that, there's the pandemic unemployment compensation amount of $600. So that's a max benefit of $962 a week. You should receive that. You should receive both of those going retroactively as far back as you possibly can, which is to January 27th. I do not know if that is how the state of Michigan is going to handle that and interpret that, but that's what I believe the law says. So they should pay that even if you filed the claim late, because the law itself specifically says the benefits can be retroactive for individuals under Section 2102 only. No other individuals, but they can go back if under Section 2102.
Marcus, just a couple of clarifying questions for you. For those people that already have filed and just kind of fumbled their way through, just doing the best they could before not really realizing that these independent contractors could apply. For those people that did already apply and you're saying are probably going to get rejected, What should they do now? Wait for the rejection, or should they call up the unemployment office and have it corrected?
They should wait. The unemployment agency hasn't figured out what they're going to do yet. They may reapply. You may have to reapply. You may get contacted by the agency if you have been rejected. Actually, the agency may have updated that already on their website.
Okay.
Everybody will bear with me a second. It changes every 15 minutes. So here's what it says.
So I just wanted, but we had a fair number of agents that were applying over the past couple of days trying to figure it out. So I just want to get them an answer real quick because they're asking right now. So basically they should probably wait a little while until it becomes clearer how the self-employed independent contractors can apply. And so wait on anything right now.
The agency's website specifically says 1099 independent contractors and low-wage workers do not apply at this time.
Okay, that must be new.
Will be open. Yep, just came up there. Applications will be open the next few days.
Okay. And then we have an overwhelming number of questions right now referring to the day that people are out of work relating to their commissions because people have commissions so sporadically scheduled over the next 2 to 3 months, depending on what they had in their pipeline. Mm-hmm. So if someone has a pending transaction that's going to happen in a month and a half, but they have no business from the 28th of January through today, or even until late May, can they apply for unemployment from how do we balance random commissions coming in with unemployment?
Sure. That's a very good question. And the answer is any weeks in which they are not receiving any money, they should apply for unemployment benefits. So during that downtime where no commissions are coming in, they should apply for unemployment benefits. When you apply for benefits, after you apply, then you have to wait and certify for benefits. As soon as you apply, you don't immediately get payments, and they're not automatic. You have to certify every 2 weeks and say, I'm unemployed, and also that I earn no money. So if you do earn money, that can reduce your unemployment compensation. So what I recommend for the agents that we just talked about, any weeks where you don't receive any money, certify that you are unemployed and you receive $0 in any type of earnings or income they will ask you.
Okay.
But if you receive a commission payment during any week, when you call up afterwards to certify for your unemployment benefits, you have to put in the amount of the commission that you received. So let's say you received $5,000. They'll say, did you receive any benefits during this week? How much? And you either type it in on the computer or on the phone, put $5,000, and then it will adjust your unemployment benefit accordingly. What I think is going to happen, it will be zero. If you make more than $543 during any given week of unemployment in Michigan, your state benefit amount goes to zero. So I don't know if they'll still pay you the $600 federal amount and zero on the state, or if you make enough money on those commissions during any given week of unemployment, if it takes your state benefit amount down to zero, you also will not get the federal amount. I think that is how it's going to be administered, but I'm not 100% certain.
Quick question on that. So with our independent contractors, they receive a 1099 that reports their gross commission. But most of these independent contractors really have a much lower take-home pay because of other operating expenses that they're using to cover. So would they be, or could they report on net self-employment earnings that would be expected for that period as opposed to the gross?
I don't know the specific answer to that, but I'm almost certain that it's gross. Because it refers to a different section of the Employment Security Act that talks about reporting gross earnings. So I think they'll have to use the entire number.
Okay.
We have an interesting question here from an agent while we're on this topic. She is a brand new realtor. She's almost put a full year in, and she has on her 2018 taxes, it would show, I guess the question would be, should someone wait to file before file? Should they file their 2019 taxes to try and get a more benefit? Should we?
Yeah, that is a good question. And that is what I think the unemployment agency is dealing with, is how do we calculate how much somebody is going to receive in state unemployment taxes state unemployment compensation when they don't have any wages in their history. And the way that they are going to deal with this with 1099 workers is they are going to use the wages that are reported. If any wages, like W-2 wages, were reported to the state, they'll look at those. But we're not going to have that for 1099 workers. You could have that if you have a situation where somebody perhaps worked as a W-2 employee before they became a real estate agent. That could be an issue. But what they're going to look at is your net self-employment income for the most recently completed tax year, which, according to the letter of the law, is 2019. If you have not filed your 2019 tax return, then they're not going to look at that. Then they will base it on the individual's statement of employment or self-employment earnings. And if that doesn't establish a claim, then they will resort to a different statute that pays federal disaster unemployment assistance benefits, and that will be 50% of the average Michigan unemployment benefit. So basically, they'll look at your 2019 tax return. If you don't have that, then you will have to give a statement of wages. If you give your statement of wages and tell them how much you earned in 2019, and that's still not enough, then they'll start your state benefit at 50% of the average Michigan unemployment benefit payment. And unfortunately, I don't know what that is. So if you were to file your taxes, so you had at least a 2019 tax form you can look at that had your net income on there, then it could be helpful. But otherwise, they're going to let you tell them what it is.
Okay. Here's an interesting question for you. And realtors are really creative. The question was, when you're on unemployment and you have to certify your income during that week, what if I, as a realtor, chose to just ask 5 Star to not pay me and just hold on to the commission checks until middle of summer and then receive all my checks in during 1 week?
Sure. And that's a good question. Now, technically, what the law says, at least in the state of Michigan, is you have to report any type of income when you earned it, regardless of whether or not you have been paid. So technically, even during those weeks, you are required to report what you have earned. That is what the letter of the law says. Practically speaking, if it's not paid to you later, the agency itself has no way to track that or whatnot. So if that were to happen, then the realtor will be probably fine. The week in which they receive those payments, they will likely be unable to collect unemployment because they will have too much income. So technically, though, they have to report it when it's earned.
Okay.
Even if it has been paid.
That helps. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Does if I have a rental property and I receive rental income that month, does that count against my unemployment?
That is a good question. I don't 100% know, but I'm 99% that it does. That it would be deemed to be some sort of income that would reduce your unemployment benefits.
Okay. What if I earn $1 million? Can I apply for unemployment?
Well, if you are currently, if you earned $1 million previously, but are now unemployed and not earning anything, yes.
Okay. So
If
there's
you're
no
still
cap.
earning $1 million,
There's no cap on what I earned in 2018 that can prohibit me from applying.
no, there's not.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Eric Graham, do you have, as you're hearing this first part here, do you have any questions that you don't think have been clarified in terms of what an agent is going to be asking in the coming days?
Well, the one concern that I'm seeing is that there's different information that's being provided to us, and even different information coming from the Attorney General's office on unemployment. And a question that I have here is, how long do these expansions for unemployment benefits, how long will these last? And the most information that I have from the Attorney General is that the changes to the unemployment benefit scheme created by Executive Order 2020-24 run through April 22nd of 2020. The expanded benefits created by the COVID-19 emergency may not apply to claims filed after April 22nd. So what I'm asking is, it appears that we have a deadline for all agents who have to file by April 22nd. Otherwise, there's a possibility that they may not be eligible for the pandemic unemployment claims after April 22nd. Can you confirm this?
I cannot confirm that. The governor's executive order that is in place that loosens the eligibility criteria for unemployment benefits, that is in place until April 22nd. That does not mean that all of the federal benefits go away after April 22nd. If you meet the criteria that are in the federal statute, then you will still get those benefits. But the lax application of the eligibility rules, those are the types of things that are in the governor's order. Those are set to expire for April 22nd. For example, you have to be available and seeking work. In this time, it's really different. If you are out trying to find a job, you might not be able to find one anyway. You currently don't have to do that, but that's only until April 22nd. So it's not going to make the federal benefits go away. So you can apply, but you have to criteria set forth in the statute. And I know I've done some stuff. I'm not sure, Paul, if you've shared with the agents yet, but there is a list with respect to the independent agents that receive 1099, the independent contractors. They will need to self-certify that their unemployment or partial unemployment is for some factor related to the COVID-19 crisis. And I've got there's 10 or 12 individual factors. I will let everybody just read those on their own as opposed to go over them on the phone.
We'll send those out.
If you meet those factors, then you still qualify. You still qualify
Mark,
for these benefits that be paid.
Mark, what I'm hearing is actually there's kind of a blending between the Michigan expanded unemployment benefits, where individuals who were previously not eligible are now eligible until April 22nd, given a certain set of criteria. However, there's also these layering on of federal benefits. They are not mutually exclusive. You can still be unemployed in Michigan and have access to the federal benefits. Can you clarify, please, like what the Michigan expanded unemployment rules are, and then how somebody might still be able to be eligible for the federal ones, even if they don't qualify for the expanded?
Sure, yeah. The expansion under the most recent executive order, which is Executive Order 24, basically it expands the number of weeks that you can collect, which is up to 26 weeks. Currently, the statute says 20. The governor has expanded that by 6 weeks. Plus, she has relaxed the eligibility and disqualification criteria, the two types of things that normally prevent you from getting benefits. So you no longer have to be seeking work. You used to always have to be seeking work. You don't have to do that now. So that makes it easier for somebody to get unemployment. It used to be that if you left work voluntarily on your own, let's say somebody at your house was sick and you need to go home and take care of them, you don't get unemployment benefits. You're disqualified for a voluntary leaving. But now, under the governor's order, if you have to go home and care for someone who is has COVID-19 positive diagnosis, that is not a voluntary leaving. If they close your school down and you need to be home to watch your kids where otherwise you could drop them off at school and then go to work, then that also is not a voluntary leaving. So really, the governor has relaxed most of the standards that are used to keep people from getting unemployment benefits. She's removed those barriers. But currently, as of April 22nd, those barriers go back up.
After April 22nd, would somebody still have access to the federal unemployment benefit?
You bet. Currently, those federal unemployment benefits, which actually expressly include state benefits, plus an additional $600, those will be available. If you otherwise meet the eligibility criteria of the different types of federal benefits, you will continue to receive both the state and federal. Now, currently, it's not 100% clear, but I personally believe that the extra $600, that federal kicker that I always call it, the extra $600 federal benefit is going to expire July 31st. So you will receive that from now all the way till July 31st. Then it's going to stop. That is open for some interpretation, but I think for all three different types of federal benefits in the CARES Act, the extra $600 from the federal government is going to stop on July 31st. And the only state that has interpreted this is New York, and they agree with me. They also agree that all of these benefits stop on July, all of the federal, the $600 stops on July 31st. But that doesn't mean you still can't collect your normal state unemployment benefit. But you will no longer get the $600 after July 31st.
Quick couple follow-up questions here before we get buried alive on these other questions. One of the main questions, we have an overwhelming number of people looking for clarification on statement of wages. 5 Star sent every single realtor a 2019 report and a year-to-date for 2020 report just yesterday. What do you think is sufficient for statement of wages?
Yeah, that is a good question. Full answer is, I don't know. What I think is not much. Okay. I think you're going to actually be able to tell the agency what you made in 2019, and that will be good enough. I think when they finally get their application process up, they will ask you, how much did you make in 2019? Well, they'll first probably ask you, did you file your 2019 taxes? What was your net income? And then you can type that in there.
Okay,
if you answer no, they will probably just ask you yourself, tell us what you made.
So they're basically going to have a lot of trust that people aren't making stuff up. They're going to say, hey, just tell us what you made, and we're going to go with that for now.
You bet. I do not believe they're going to require any actual physical documentation of what you earned. I could be wrong, but I don't see that as feasible.
Okay, yeah, because they'd have to have so many staff to review all that.
You bet.
Okay, one more thing I want to clarify here is, let's say I earned one check in March, one check in February, and then I earned nothing in January. Can I go back retroactively to January? Did you say it was 27th?
Yes.
Okay, can I go back to January 27th, file for unemployment all the way back as January 27th, and then certify those 2 individual weeks where I earned an income, and then receive unemployment for every other week in that time frame that I did not earn a check?
Yep. Answer to your question is I don't know, but you should be able to.
So you
should be able to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just have to certify. You just have to certify which weeks you actually earned a paycheck.
You bet. You will have to probably report your wages during a set of weeks. So they'll probably ask you, how much did you earn during this week? This week. Truthfully, put the number in there, and then your benefits will be handled accordingly.
Okay. Another question here. If someone is eligible for these government checks, these government rebate checks of like up to $3,400 per family or whatever it is Is that taxable? Is that a taxable event? And is unemployment benefits a taxable event?
I think Eric can answer the first part on that. Unemployment benefits are taxable. When you apply, they give you an option of having the taxes withheld, but they are taxable.
So you can either have it withheld or pay it later potentially.
You bet you'll receive what they call a 1099-G. And if you don't pay it now, have it withheld, you'll pay it later.
Okay. One quick second here.
Hey, Mark, question
And I think
for you.
Yes.
If somebody had a Schedule C filer, they got gross commissions of $100,000 in 2019, but their net self-employment income was only $10,000. Which one do they report for unemployment claim?
Sure. That I don't know. They will have to, no, it's net.
Is it net?
It's net self-employment income. That's when it comes to reporting your wages in the past. Anything that you're earning now, if you receive a $500 check for a commission, you have to put 500. It's gross.
Gross. Okay.
Yeah.
So, are your unemployment benefits taxed at a flat rate or taxed at your yearly rate?
That I don't know.
It's your yearly rate. It's
So-
combined in with your other ordinary income sources. So whatever marginal rate that you are in, that income will be thrown in that bucket.
Will these stimulus checks that get directly mailed, will that impact your unemployment? If like the government mailed me a check for $1,200, would I have to file that I earned income that week, and would I lose unemployment that week?
Again, I don't know 100%, but what my educated guess is, yes, because the government's not going to allow you to receive both.
Okay.
Also, if you're receiving any type of paid leave benefits at all, that all has to be reported as income for unemployment purposes, and I imagine a stimulus check likely would as well.
Okay. Okay. Does filing jointly affect unemployment? If my spouse is gainfully employed but I lost my job, can I file for unemployment?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Even if your spouse is still working, you still can file for unemployment. These are individual claims. They do not look at entire household income. It's all about what you're making now, which is zero, and what you made in the past. So if you qualify individually, it doesn't matter if your spouse is still gainfully employed, you can collect your benefits.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just going through our questions here. Does anyone else have any questions out there for Eric or Greg? And how are you guys doing?
Is there anybody who's excluded from getting unemployment?
Yeah, there is. With respect to the independent contractors out there who fall under Section 2102, they are excluded if they are able to, they use this phrase, telework with pay. So if you can work from home and still earn a paycheck, you are excluded from these benefits. Or any individuals receiving paid sick leave or any type of other paid leave. So if you're laid off, but you're continuing to receive, let's say, severance payments or any type of leave of absence payment, like some employers are doing, saying we're going to keep paying you $500 a week for the next 3 weeks, then they would not be eligible. But barring those two things, you're eligible. And also, as I said, you must meet the COVID-19 factors, those 12 factors that are laid out in the statute that is on my little cheat sheet that I prepared.
Okay, awesome.
So those COVID factors, I have them in front of me. They seem pretty broad in that if I was a real estate agent and I'm simply not able to show homes right now, I can't close because of signature requirements, I'm otherwise able to work. I don't have kids at home, so school closures don't affect me. It's simply the limitations that the governor has put on me that I can't go out and show homes and do closings. That would qualify as one of these 12 factors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It would qualify, where is it? Well, definitely number 12 for agents is going to be kind of a catch-all. The individual is self-employed and is seeking part-time employment, but does not have sufficient work history or otherwise would not qualify for regular or extended state unemployment benefits. Well, we're trying to work out there, but due to the shutdown order, we can't. And you otherwise would not qualify for benefits. So boom, you've met one of the factors you need to get the Section 2102 benefits.
Okay.
Okay, question about this verification of everyone's asking about gross versus net. So, for example, someone gets a $10,000 commission check, but maybe out of that commission check, there's a 30% split here. There's a bill being paid here. They gave some concessions to their buyer here. It's basically going to be how much shows up on their check.
Are we talking about for the purposes of reporting it while you're unemployed, or?
Yeah, I think they're talking about reporting it while unemployed, or even showing your statement of wages.
Yeah, and that's a difficult one. What the statute says is gross. It says any remuneration that you receive, which is a fancy lawyer word for pay, the gross amount has to be.
So,
but
okay,
if
so
you get a $10,000,
go ahead.
If you get a $10,000 commission check, that right away, a third of that is not yours because you split it with somebody else and you have to pay them. I think that you're in a fairly good position to report what you took home out of that before any taxes are factored into it.
Okay.
That's fair. I don't know that for sure, but that's a fair, and I don't think you'll have a hard time if you do that.
Yeah. And again, people are just wanting to clarify the earned date. We talked about how you can't have a closing, get a commission check, and have 5-star just hold the check till later. The date of certification is the date the closing takes place, the date you quote unquote earned the money, which was the closing day.
Yeah. Technically, that's what the law says, the date you earn the money.
Yep.
Regardless of whether or not it's been paid, it must be reported. Sometimes that's not possible, but
it has no bearing on whether or not it doesn't matter when the money hits my account. If there's a 3-day delay with banking, they don't care what date the money hit the account. They care what date you earned the check, and that was essentially the day you closed.
I would caveat that it's probably, the date that you earned it. We all earn wages as we work, but I don't get a paycheck every day. I get a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's probably your access to being able to say, now if 5-star has a policy that they hold for 5 days after closing to make sure that, all things are cleared up, and the earliest date that you can get that check is 5 days after closing, that's when I would say that you've actually earned it.
Okay.
That's your right that's when you have the right to go in and get the check.
Yeah. Another follow-up on this, guys. And guys, everyone watching right now, we're going to clarify all this. We're going to go through all these questions, and we're going to try and create a clarification sheet for everybody. So if you just know that we're still available, this isn't your only chance to get answers to questions. One of the good questions that someone asked was, if I make a $10,000 check next week, and I'm currently on unemployment, will that $10,000 check recalculate my forward benefits on unemployment?
That's a good question. The answer is no.
Okay.
It's going to impact that 1 week.
Just the 1 week. But if I'm receiving the maximum of $962 per week and I make 10 grand next week, I'm going to continue receiving that $962 until I take myself off of unemployment.
You bet. As long as you keep calling up and certifying that you received no income during subsequent weeks, you'll still get your $962 check.
Okay. So they're not going to they won't, just to clarify again, they're not recasting your benefit every week.
No, they should not be doing that. That's not how the system works.
Okay. Another one says, well, what if the government all of a sudden wakes up and says, hey, you should be able to live a month and a half on that $10,000 check. We're going to take this away from you.
That is a good question. And I think that is unlikely to happen.
Okay.
We have legislation that is passed that is providing benefits to people. In order for them to take those away, we would need a new law out there revoking those, and there's various due process requirements. Okay. Once you have government benefits established, I think that's unlikely.
Okay.
Oh, so Paul, let me just jump in here briefly. So Please. What I'm hearing here, because this question, they're going at it from about 15 different directions. The bottom line is, I could get unemployment last week. I could make $100,000 this week, and next week I don't make anything, so I can qualify again for unemployment. The $100,000 only impacts 1 week, correct?
Correct, I agree.
All right, thank you.
So when it says we're on unemployment, we have to be out looking for work. Someone asked, well, do I have to be looking for work outside of real estate? I mean, if I know that I can't go show houses here, I mean, we're all working. I mean, there's about 50 transactions went pending yesterday just in the Grand Rapids Association of Realtors. So you can still work. So even if I'm at home and I'm not making any money, I'm not looking for a new job, but I'm actively working with my people. And I mean, that's looking for work, right?
Yes, you have to, under 2102 for the independent contractors, you have to be available for work. That's what it says. Currently, right now under state law, seeking work, you really don't have to be seeking work. Okay. But generally speaking, before the state law was changed or whatnot, yes, you have to be seeking work. Does that mean you have to take any work? If you were previously an agent selling homes, making good money, do you have to work somewhere cleaning toilets for minimum wage? No. That's what the state law said before all of this is. So no, but you have to be looking and seeking work that is similar to what you did before. Something in a similar vein.
It could be me calling up my clients and saying, how's it going? Are you interested in buying a house this year?
Sure. Absolutely.
And that's, Paul, I think that's a good time to make that point that, you know, and we will probably hold, I think you're actually talking on this on Friday, are you not?
Yeah, we're hosting a little class on Friday focusing on how to do virtual real estate. Yep, little plug there. All right.
Eric Graham, I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable. If there's something here that you want to jump in on, Paul's going to continue ripping these questions off, but if you want to jump in, feel free.
No, I don't have any questions at this time. I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole.
All right. Thank you.
So we're good.
Yep. So I just want to reiterate for everyone listening right now, if you tuned in late, right now we're talking about mainly just your standard realtor out there that does not have any employees and does not have an LLC quite yet. So we haven't moved to that portion yet. I'm going to move us there really quickly now, but I want to reiterate that anyone who missed the beginning, we talked about whether or not the independent contractor can apply. We're being told that independent contractors should wait. They're retooling their system right now, specifically for independent contractors. If you've already filed, you'll likely be denied. You could also potentially call up the state and try to clarify, but everyone just needs to sit tight. We've not missed any windows. They're extending the windows of opportunity to apply for unemployment. So everyone just sit tight, take a deep breath. You've not missed out on anything.
And retroactive.
Yeah, and for anyone who missed it, you can actually go retroactive all the way to January 27th, and you can verify which weeks you did not earn any income, and you can actually go retroactively to earn unemployment for those weeks. Like I said, we're going to summarize all of this. So just breathe easy. We're going to summarize everything. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marcus.
You bet.
But for now, what I would like to do is, they're all kind of wondering when independent contractors will be able to apply. Are we talking days, hours, a week?
The answer to that question is I don't know, but they should be, if they're doing their job, they need to get it together within, I'd say within a week. But it is the unemployment agency, so you don't know, but I think they will. I think they will get it together within a week, but the exact date when they can, I have no idea.
Okay, one last question before we jump into the more complicated stuff. If the governor all of a sudden updates their critical infrastructure document in 2 weeks from now, and they now state that real estate is now considered critical infrastructure, does that impact our ability to collect unemployment? Or, I mean, there's obviously external factors, even if we're made critical, we still might be unemployed.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That should not have an impact. If you are made to be essential workers now and that you can go to work and still do your job, you will be expected to do that. But let's say one of the COVID-19 factors still applies to you. The school's still closed down. I can't leave my kid home by himself. You still get the unemployment.
Okay.
But if none of those factors apply, then you will be expected to go back to work and you will no longer receive unemployment.
All right. Eric, is that your pen smoking over there? Or are you writing pretty fast?
No, I have all that already in my documents, so we're good.
All right, cool. Okay, so I want to jump over real quick because, guys, we've answered a lot of questions about just solo realtors, and we're going to clarify all of that this evening. So we're going to make sure you guys get your answers. If you're coming in late, I'd ask that you would just sit tight on asking those questions for a minute here. We're going to jump into
Paul, this is Eric Daly. Just very quickly, I just want to, in this solo realtor, independent contractor, self-employed situation, it's important. There was a question about possible grants, deferrals, loans.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, because this ties in, I think, to sort of the strategy around unemployment.
Let me clarify the question, Eric. Let me clarify the question. Yep. So everyone listening here, we asked Eric if there were any other possible loans, grants, deferments, or anything else other than just unemployment they can apply for. So Eric, take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So the CARES Act, which is the law that was signed into effect last Friday, expands many small business administration programs to cover, in addition to what you might consider a conventional small business like an LLC or an S corporation, things like that. It expands it to cover independent contractors and self-employed individuals, as well as kind of gig economy type people. There's a few programs in particular. One is called the Payroll Protection Plan or Payroll Protection Program. And that is actually although first styled as a loan, it can be forgiven if you use it to fund certain types of expenses, including compensation costs. And compensation costs includes commissions during the 8-week period after you take out that PPP loan. So the reason I want to make sure we didn't miss this point before moving on is because it may impact what weeks you elect to pursue unemployment for. If you file for the PPP loan early on, and you can get it early on, for example, while you're still anticipating that you might receive some commissions from pending sales, you could get a forgivable loan based on your kind of trailing 12-month average monthly payroll costs, which in the context of a self-employed or independent contractor would be sort of your net take-home pay. You'd have to document that with 1099s and other financial information. But you could essentially use that to continue to pay yourself as a self-employed or an independent contractor for that 8-week period. And if you do that, it would be forgivable. And I assume, Mark, you would say, during that period, if you're receiving that, you're not going to be able to get unemployment because you're paying yourself. And so if you do decide to do the payroll protection plan, and are able to receive one of those loans, I don't think you want to file for unemployment at the same time you're using that to pay yourself during that 8-week forgiveness period. And based on some information released from the SBA at the end of the day yesterday, it looks like they're going to start accepting applications for independent contractors and self-employed individuals to make applications for the PPP loans next Friday. So April 10th will be it looks like the first date that those types of individuals would be able to apply for a PPP loan. And so, it may mean that you use some of your retroactive unemployment for weeks prior to that 8-week PPP loan period and some for after. But that would, I think, Mark, can tell me if you disagree, but I think that could impact, once people get the rejections for those who have already filed for unemployment, how and when they decide to go back to kind of refile.
Paul, I've actually sent you a copy of the Paycheck Protection Program borrower's information sheet.
Yeah, I just saw that come through today.
Okay, and a link to the Paycheck Protection Program application.
So just to clarify, since I ran out of the room to grab some more LaCroix. Can you fill me in? Did you say that any realtor here can, even if they're sole proprietors or independent contractors or whatever, they can also apply for the PPP?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. So, and they can't really fire themselves. So that would be forgivable for that 2 month, amount of income would be forgivable.
If they use it to pay themselves, which presumably they would.
Yeah.
And you could use up to 25% of it for rent, mortgage payments related to your business, or utilities. So, I think one approach could be, and there's a limited pool of funds and a lot of people who are going to be applying for those funds. Yeah. So one approach, you should talk to your banking contacts, but one approach could be that as soon as that April 10th date rolls around, you go ahead and apply for the PPP loan. It's forgivable if you presumably you're going to use it for that purpose, and use your unemployment to cover other weeks, understanding that may, Governor Whitmer's order may expire during that period, and there might be some downsides to potentially doing that. I think the forgiveness of that loan is probably enough of an upside to at least consider doing that. And I won't go into detail on all the other SBA loans, but suffice to say for now that there are other programs like the Emergency Income Disaster Loan Program. There are grants under that Emergency Income Disaster Loan Program. And those programs have also been expanded to cover independent contractors and self-employed individuals. And if anybody happens to already have an SBA loan, there's going to be an automatic deferral of really forgiveness of loan payments during that the next 6 months. So you want to look, the SBA's website's pretty good about laying all this out. I would recommend you look at that and consider those funding options in addition to unemployment or as a complement to it, understanding that only the PPP loan is a forgivable loan.
Okay.
The others would need to be repaid.
We obviously, this one is causing people's minds to burst a little bit. So I just want to reiterate really quickly here on what the payment protection loan is. It's an SBA loan that you can get through one of your banks that has an SBA department. And you are able to request up to 2.5 times your monthly, I guess, whatever you're paid in an average month.
It's your average monthly payroll cost, which is actually a broader concept, and you would look back over the prior year period. So it clearly includes commissions, which is the bulk of what is relevant here, but it also includes things like health benefit costs, So there's a list, there's a litany of things. I won't go through all of them.
Yeah.
You can actually look on our website. If you look at webinars that we've done on the CARES Act by the numbers, that will have the PowerPoint presentations. You can watch the webinars and it'll go through all the different costs, but yes.
Okay, so I want to zoom out just a little bit and get kind of conceptual here for a second, so agents can,
Well, before you go there, I want to clarify something that Eric just said, because I can see potentially some of the agents thinking something here. That thing that Eric was just talking about, I believe, is limited to $100,000 income.
I was gonna clarify real quickly.
All right.
So, all right. So if everyone we all take a collective breath for a second. Just take a collective breath. Yes, Melinda, this will be recorded and we'll follow up and summarize. So I just want to everyone take a step back real quick. So we've just heard about unemployment benefits, and now we're talking strategically about what's called the payment protection plan. It's not guaranteed, Eric, if I understand correctly, because there's limited funds there.
That's right.
You can't 100% bank on it, but what it can do, if you're a realtor, is you could take your average income of last year, which is up to a maximum of $100,000. You average it out over a month, right?
Yep. Important clarification. Yep.
Yep. It's a maximum of $100,000 is what you can use as a yearly is maxed at 100K. You can get 2 months of money from the government through the payment protection plan that is forgivable. And during that time frame, you would not be able to, but from I'm just saying conceptually, you would not be able to collect unemployment during that 2 month period either. But Eric, do you want to clarify this? The agents are obviously very interested yet confused.
Yeah, that's conceptually right. Except I would just say it's 2.5%, 2.5 times your average monthly income. So more like 2.5 months actually. Okay. And then we have 8 weeks after if you get a loan, you have 8 weeks after you get the loan to spend it on forgivable expenses, which would include that compensation. Yep. Compensation costs up to the $100,000 on an annualized basis. So you couldn't get forgiveness for amounts that you paid yourself above the $100,000 on an annualized. You have to prorate it for that 8 week period. But any portion of the loan that's not forgiven because you used it for some other purpose that's not, a forgivable purpose, it's only 0.5% interest rate. It has a 2-year maturity. It's not personally guaranteed, although in the context of a self-employed individual, I think it would be, a loan under your own name. And then there's no collateral required either. So it's a very favorable, pretty much every small business that's been negatively impacted is going to be going in to get,
So strategically speaking, if you earned over 100K last year, it would make a lot of sense for you to go for the PPP for those 2 months and not collect unemployment for those 2 months, because you stand to earn quite a bit more for that 2 month period, at least.
That is my thought. And I don't know, Mark, if you have anything to add to that, other than it may create some uncertainty around some of the state relaxation rules for seeking unemployment. But I think it's helpful in a couple of ways. One is if you do it, the right way, it's forgivable. And two is, the issue that we kind of started off talking about is what if we've got pending sales out, there that we might get commission for in certain weeks. If those are all going to come in during that 8 week period, that could mitigate, the impact on unemployment later.
Okay. Well, we'll do some clarifying here. And one thing I want to encourage all of you guys to, obviously you guys are going to have your own individual questions. We can't answer all of them here. So reach out to myself and Eric Graham, and we're going to be taking one-on-one appointments to answer any questions you guys have. We're not attorneys, but we can at least try and guide you to the right places. Yes, the PPP loans are through the SBA departments at your local bank.
Paul? I have a couple of follow-up questions on that real quick here for Marcus. With regards to the PPP loans, prior year's payroll, that's for 2019, January 1 through December 31st. When we're starting to figure and calculate what our payroll expenses are, or the average, monthly expense for payroll. That's going to be for 2019 figures, correct?
So this is Eric Daly speaking. I'll take that one.
Okay,
The way the statute is written is you would look at the 12 months prior to the loan date, but in the sample application that was released and some of the related forms that were released late yesterday by SBA and Treasury, they said that many borrowers will just use their 2019 figures for the calendar year. So it suggests that they will accept that in lieu of, whatever, March 2019 through March 2020.
So even though the bill says one thing, the administrator of the program is saying another thing.
Yeah, and that's happening, unfortunately, in a number of cases. We're learning as we review the materials that were released yesterday. But what's not changing is that sole proprietors and sole proprietorships, independent contractors, and self-employed persons are all eligible to apply, assuming they don't otherwise get disqualified from this, which I don't think a real estate agent would typically get disqualified to apply. Just like an LLC, I know you're going to get to that later, but if you're set up as an LLC and you've got employees and you're not a self-employed individual, that type of business is also eligible to apply. And so they're bringing parity to the previous SBA system for this limited period of time to make sure they reach as many people as possible in the small business sector.
And then with regards to companies that are LLCs who have employees or full-time equivalent employees or part-time, how are you recommending that they determine the average number of FTEs or full-time equivalent employees per month when you have part-timers as well?
Yeah, there's no real guidance on that yet for purposes of this program, but if you have somebody who's part-time, I think you'd count like half-time, you would count them as half a full-time employee. Just apply common sense for now on those questions, and until we get some guidance that says otherwise, I think that that's the best approach. The overall goal here is clearly to get the money out and into small business owners, and then into, in the case of companies, into their employees' hands as quickly as possible, and then to do more of the verification for forgiveness on the back end.
Okay. So,
Paul, I need to clarify one thing here on this Paycheck Protection Program. So the run time on it is through June 30. If our independent contractors are applying April 10, we're looking at the next 8 weeks of what their payroll is going to be, right? So the expenditures through June 30. Is that correct, Eric? So we really need to be kind of cognizant of if we get the loan in, that we probably need to be doing so prior to May 1st.
Yeah.
If we're looking at
the June 30th date is not. No, the June 30th date is the last date that you can receive the loan. The 8-week period runs from whenever you receive the loan, but don't wait until that long. If you're going to do it, do it sooner, and your 8 weeks should run up before then.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying. I've heard varying opinions on that, so thank you for clarifying that we have up until then to receive the funds, and then it's the following 8 weeks that we have to spend the funds.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, now I'm going to move out of the solo realtors stuff, and we're going to move into realtors that have their own S corps or LLCs, and they have some more complexity. So this is a little bit confusing one. Dustin Anderson asked this question here, and Andy Straub has a similar question. So I'm going to start with the easier one, which is Andy Straub's, which is if he pays himself a fair wage through his LLC, and then every once in a while he bonuses himself, does he take his fair wage plus his bonus to determine what his payroll is? Do bonuses also count into the payroll?
Are you asking for purposes of the payroll protection plan program?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really salaries, wages, commissions, or any similar comps. Our view is that yes, that includes everything.
Okay.
It wouldn't include like dividends that you distributed out in our view, but
if he gave himself an extra $5,000 bonus one month because it was a good month, that would just be part of wages.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. This one's a little more complex. Dustin Anderson says that he pays his payroll through an LLC, which his wife owns, and he gets commissions as a sole proprietor through 5-Star or independent contractor through 5-Star. Can Dustin apply for the payroll protection program as a realtor? And can his wife apply for payroll protection because that's how they pay their staff through their LLC?
Probably not, because for purposes of this program and all SBA programs, there's a broad affiliation concept that will group together entities that have a common economic interest.
Okay.
So that you should, in that case, if you're thinking about doing that, I suggest you get your own individualized legal counsel about, whether that's a good idea to do. But I would say my perspective on that, just generally, especially if it's an immediate family member, is that's going to be grouped together and considered one borrower.
Can I follow up question on that? So if it's one borrower, could they make the case that you have Dustin's average income here, and then you have his staff members' income here? Is it just, can you combine the two into one payroll?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should take that view. Yep.
So to answer Dustin's question, Dustin, you would only need to apply once, but you would build in both your admin staff payroll and your payroll, and you would make one larger claim to the SBA.
Yeah. And here's the thing, work with your bank. I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of what the statute says here, they've clearly ignored a lot of it for purposes of starting to implement this. And, but, that's because they want to get the money out quickly. It's understandable in light of the exigencies of what's happening here. But the bank that you work with or credit union or whoever, that's who's going to be processing the application. And that's going to be your principal, if not only your sole contact. So, make sure that you collaborate closely with them as early as possible about your unique set of facts so that they can process and tell you what information they're going to need based on any individual situation. Because I could tell you one thing based on the law, and then the operating procedures that a bank gets from the SBA could be totally different. That's just the way things are happening right now, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, so we have a couple more specific questions here. Andy Smith has an S Corp, and he pays himself a reasonable salary with the balance of commissions paid out monthly as a distribution. Would he be using all monies paid in or just the salary portion?
Just in our view, it's just the salary portion in that case, and not distributions to, really ownership distributions.
Okay.
But, again, that's not something that's been specifically addressed by anybody implementing these programs.
So what if I got my real estate team here and then I have a hair salon that I run as well? Do I merge both of those into one claim, or can I file twice with the PPP?
So you would have to aggregate the two businesses for making sure you're not above 500 employees to still qualify.
Okay.
But if you think about how your PPP loan amount is calculated, it's based on your average monthly payroll cost. So I think in that situation, assuming that together the two businesses are not over 500 employees and they're really different enterprises, one's totally unrelated, talk to your bank, but I think there you would apply each for its own loan.
Okay.
And then, that way they can each track their forgivable expenses appropriately as well.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't change, unless unless there's a $10 million cap on each of these loans. So unless that comes into play, it really doesn't matter that you divide it into 2 loans because, it's just 2.5 times per, whatever your average monthly payroll cost is. And if you break that down on an entity basis or in the aggregate, the math works out the same. So there, I would say, just again, talk to your bank about how they want you to do it to process it as effectively as possible. But my thought is that most banks would want you to do 2 applications there, but you would need to group together any affiliated businesses, and that's a broad concept. So any businesses you own would need to be grouped together for the 500 employee test.
Okay. So if I'm a pretty big team and I've got 3 admin on staff, I've got my own office building that I am renting, I've got overhead, I've got internet, I've got all sorts of expenses going on here. Plus I earn $300,000 a year. I can apply for my payroll would be up to $100,000 for me if that was my situation. And then if I paid every one of my admin $60,000, I would take 60, if I had 3 admin to be 60, 60, 60 plus my 100. And then I add in all of my other rent expenses, utility expenses. And then that's how I would calculate my.
So let me answer that. There's 2 different concepts here that are interrelated. One is how you calculate your maximum loan amount. Yep. For that purpose, just payroll costs. Okay. And yes, you could include the other, you would include the other employees in your average monthly payroll cost calculation. Utilities, mortgage, rent don't factor into your loan amount. They are just other ways you can use that money. So when you get the loan, you don't have to use it all for payroll, but you do have to use at least 75% of it, at least based on, this is not in the statute at all, but it's in the materials that Treasury put out yesterday. You have to use at least 75% of it for payroll costs, and you could use the other amounts for rent, mortgage, or utilities, and get it forgiven. And then there's some other permitted uses for these funds, but they're not forgivable. So there's like it's a subset of permitted uses that ultimately could end up being forgiven.
Okay. And this is really, so everyone knows, this is really only an 8-week period of time that your expenses will be covered. It's not forever. It's just 8 weeks. And then,
right. And
the other thing too that I want to, go ahead.
Yep. The forgiveness period is just the 8 weeks after you get the loan. But if there's anything left after that, you can still keep the loan out. You have 2 years to repay the loan, and then interest would start accruing after the 6 months deferral period.
Okay.
How many years do they have to pay the loan back?
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Okay.
The act said that they could do up to. The act had said that they could do up to 10 years, but then Treasury came out yesterday and said all these PPP loans are going to be uniform terms except for the amount, and the uniform terms are 2 years and 0.5% interest.
So the maximum interest of 4% has been rescinded or modified at this point?
Yeah, they've lowered it. The idea is they want to get the money out as fast as possible, so they're not going to individualize these things to different businesses. And so they had set some parameters in which, maybe they could have tailored the loans for, I think they just said, what, to do this quickly, we ought to have a uniform loan product.
Just to clarify, because we had a question here on how do you make sure your loan is forgivable, and what stipulates if it's forgivable? And Eric, you mentioned can you just run me through the only portions that are forgivable? And when you go, and what we believe, and you can clarify again, Eric, is we believe they're going to be very lenient in giving you the money. And then when you go to make it forgivable, they're probably going to audit you to verify that you used it for the proper items.
Audit might be too strong a word, but yeah, the bank is going to require more documentation at that point. But the main buckets of forgivable expenses, there are really 4 main buckets. One is payroll costs. I mean, that's really the main purpose of the statute. And you have to use at least 75% of the forgivable amounts for that. The other 3 categories, which are capped at 25%, are mortgage payments, if the mortgage is already in place. And I'm not talking about your home mortgage, talking about mortgage for your business, rental payments for your business, or utility payments for your business that were already in place at February 15th. And the other factors that
everyone you want
want
money for. So everyone has. So if I hired someone last week, they would not qualify for payment protection payroll or payroll protection plan.
No, they would. You could use the money to pay them and get it forgiven if you hired somebody last week.
Okay. All right. So basically, as long and what guys, we're going to post the forgivable stipulations as well. You had just reiterated it's payroll. At least 75% of the money you get has to go towards payroll, and you can use 25% of it up for business expenses such as business rent, business mortgage payment, or interest.
It's not, I would say business expenses is too broad a way to describe it. It's very specifically mortgage, rent, and utilities.
Okay.
Is that mortgage interest or mortgage principal, or both?
Yeah, and that's another good clarification. Only interest payments. And
Only
you can't
interest
prepay interest. So the only current interest and current rent. You can't advance pay things under this and get it forgiven.
Okay, that's super helpful.
Hey, Eric, can you talk briefly about the interaction between this Paycheck Protection Program and the Employee Retention Credit?
Yes. If you participate in, I'm glad you brought that up. If you participate in the Payroll Protection Program, you will not be able to get the Employee Retention Credit. So those two are interrelated. And then there's another tax credit that is imperiled if you have any portion of your PPP, or it's another tax benefit that's imperiled if you have any portion of your PPP loan forgiven, which is the ability to push certain employer share of taxes into 2021 and 2022. So if you're looking at those benefits, just know that you're probably going to lose the ability to factor those in to your overall kind of liquidity planning if you do a PPP loan and go down that road. So those, but it's not all the other tax provisions. It's really just those two.
I think the idea is that you've gotten money, right, on the loan to be able to cover these things.
Yeah.
So you really shouldn't need to have the credits coming in. Those are designed for people who are not taking advantage of the payroll protection program. They're using other mechanisms to be able to protect and pay their employees.
Yeah.
One quick clarification too. Some people were asking how to apply for the PPP loan. And I saw someone comment in here that they had already applied at SBA/disaster. And I want to be clear that there are there's multiple loans out there. And so if you applied for a loan just now, you didn't apply for PPP because the applications aren't even able to be accepted yet.
That's
Correct.
right.
If you applied for anything over the SBA website, it was not a PPP loan. It was probably an emergency injury disaster loan. And you can do that in advance of getting a PPP loan. But that loan that you would have applied for through the SBA website, the EIDL, the disaster loan, is not forgivable. That is not a forgivable loan, although you can refinance it into your PPP loan if and when you apply for a PPP. Yeah, if you get into the PPP program, then you can add that into your PPP loan. But that's a different program. Any true PPP loan is going to have to go through a bank, credit union, or other authorized financial institution for the application process.
And the soonest available, the soonest time we are aware right now that you can apply for that loan, the PPP, would be.
So if you're an independent contractor or you are self-employed, it'll be April 10th. If you're otherwise a small business or a sole proprietorship, it's this Friday, April 3rd.
Okay. And if I don't use that loan, let's say I get the PPP loan and I get $20,000 or $10,000 or something like this for my team, and I don't use it for the right purposes, what interest rate do we get on that loan?
You get 6 months deferral, no interest, and then it's 0.5, so 50 basis points interest rate per year, per annum.
Okay, so you get 6 months with zero interest, and then it flips into a 0.5%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you clarify, Eric, what's the difference between, for the purposes of this loan, a sole proprietor who is, in my tax world, that's somebody who files on their Schedule C with their individual income tax return, and an independent contractor? So many independent contractors are also sole proprietors.
Yeah, no, I know. I can't clarify, unfortunately. I think that's another situation where the sooner you get in touch with your bank, they're going to be the gatekeepers on these things.
Okay.
Whatever I have to say about it is kind of academic, to be honest with you. But, since a sole proprietorship can apply earlier, if you want to cast yourself that way and talk to your bank about whether you can do that, that's a way to get in line faster, I guess.
All right. So if you're an LLC, S Corp, sole proprietor, small business, you can apply this Friday. We have.
But it has to be a bank or a credit union that's already a Section 7A SBA approved lender. So make sure that,
Okay. And not at SBA.gov.
Yeah, none of these forgivable loans are through SBA.gov. 100% clear on that point. If you're applying through SBA.gov and giving them information, it's for a different type of loan, which may make sense, but it's not the forgivable PPP loan.
All right. Yeah. Cause we're hearing reports from people stating that their friends or someone they know got one of these forgivable loans already, but that is absolutely not possible.
That's why I can confirm that is not the case.
Okay.
They may have gotten a disaster loan, but that is not a forgivable loan unless it ends up getting refinanced into the PPP program.
Okay. Now, what about these $10,000 grants through the SBA? Can agents apply for these? Can these LLCs apply for these?
Anybody we're talking about here, self-employed, independent contractor, sole proprietor, or a business entity, as long as the business entity is small, which I'm assuming everybody here fits in that bucket. When you apply for it, this is the loan through the SBA website, the disaster loan, or EIDL. That application is the one that you may get. You may be able to get this $10,000 emergency grant through, and that you get to keep even if you ultimately get denied the EIDL. That's not, you don't have to repay that emergency grant. So that could be one reason why you'd want to apply for the EIDL.
Yep.
The warning I would give on, another difference between the disaster loan and the PPP is that the disaster loan is, if it's above $25,000, they're going to require collateral security. And if it's above $200,000 and you are not an individual applying, you're a business, they're going to require personal guarantees from owners who have a more than 20% equity interest.
Okay.
So those are some important differences.
That's specifically for the disaster loan that you can get at SBA.com/disaster.
Yes.
Okay. So what if someone just formed an LLC on January 1? Can they still file? They're a business now, so they can file as an LLC. But what if they don't have a history of paying themselves an income? Do they just take their
Yeah, you have to have been in existence before February 15th, I think.
Okay.
And for those businesses, you just have a shorter look back period for your average monthly payroll costs. So you have to, I think, show that you existed. I'm going off the top of my head because I don't have the statute right in front of me, but that you existed at February 15th and had made some payroll tax payments if you're an entity. But if you formed after February 15th, they're not going to be able to participate. But before that, it's just the math is going to be different, and you just have to work through that with your bank.
So it's like if I formed on January 1, I'd be like, okay, well, what'd you earn between January 1 and February 15? And let's come up with an average.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
That's an easy way to think about it.
Okay.
And we should clarify. I see some questions coming through on Facebook I was an independent contractor before or sole proprietor, and now I'm an LLC. In the state of Michigan, there's really an LLC can still be one person. That's a single member LLC, and you're still filing on your individual income tax return a Schedule C. So sometimes when we use the terminology LLC, we may be talking about, two owners rather than just one owner. It doesn't appear in these loan guidelines that they're really differentiating between single member LLC, sole proprietor, and LLC partnership. So if you are like an LLC and you now want to file under that small business area, it doesn't appear that you would be excluded from doing that just because there's only one owner.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. What else do we got here, guys? Greg, Eric, do you guys have any clarifications?
I don't have anything other than I would just like to thank Eric and Mark and Laura here, especially for hopefully giving the 5-star agents a really good head start, realizing that there's not everything has been defined and determined yet, but I think they've got much to go on. And I'm excited to hear how this unfolds in the coming days. And we're excited for the agents to find ways to survive. I listened to another seminar yesterday, and the number one goal for this large broker in New York City was to survive. And that's really what we're talking about here. And the government is doing something that they've never done before, which is to basically desire to hand out as much money as they possibly can as fast as they can, which we've never seen before. And I'm sure that they will be looking for fraud and misuse on the backside. So I just want to caution the agents to be careful that even though it may be handed out quickly and fast, do not misuse it, and pay attention and make sure you got professionals walking alongside you. That would be my 2 cents.
Yep.
I agree with, this is Eric Daly. I would just underscore that twice, is that you're making all kinds of certifications to the government that, that when you participate in these programs, you are not going to be using the funds for unpermitted purposes, and you could face, if you in a really bad set of facts, you could have significant penalties or even criminal allegations. And so it's not, just free money for any purpose. And I know I'm not to imply that anyone would be thinking about it that way, but it is extremely important, because I know everybody would be acting in good faith, to create a paper trail that shows that, so that if you did get audited, or you did have a particularly inquisitive loan agent at a bank, that you could really tie everything together.
Yeah. So lean hard on your SBA lender. We can do our best to guide them, but they really need to rely heavily on that SBA lender to make sure they're doing things properly.
100%.
And I'm gonna pipe in here from the tax perspective, because often these type of free money programs have little backdoor things that can come and surprise you from a tax perspective. So make sure that you're talking to your CPA and your attorneys as you're navigating through here to make sure that you're going in eyes wide open.
Correct. Thank you.
Yep. And for anyone,
Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
I'd like to add one thing. With respect to the unemployment, there are also fraud provisions that come with that. Anybody who fraudulently procures this extended and enhanced unemployment, there are criminal penalties, can be prosecuted by the U.S. attorney. So those are out there as well. I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of those. And I think earlier we talked about when you should report that income. As far as when you're on unemployment benefits, here's my take-home message. One, if you report it when you get the check, you'll be fine. You won't have any issues. But what I wouldn't do for either an employer or an employee is to change your pay practices. So if someone were to say, hey, don't pay me that bonus until 6 weeks from now, even though our normal payroll practice is we pay it to you next week, I wouldn't do that, because then both the employer and the individual are complicit in a potential fraud. So pay it as normal and report the wages as earnings when you get them. That's my recommendation as well.
Excellent point. Eric, Graham, anything that you want to add here?
No, I want to thank everyone for the information to confirm what I'm seeing here. So thank you.
So yeah, I just want to thank everybody, the team that we put together here. Thank you guys so much. I think this has been really helpful. I want to reiterate to all the viewers that we are going to send a summary of all of this. We are going to do our best to bring as much clarity as we can. We are not attorneys, so make sure you bring the right people in if you're having any serious questions. If you do want to have a quick 15-minute chat with myself and Eric Graham to help you think through some of your situations and help guide you to the right people, just email me at paul@fivestarleaders.com and we can do a quick video chat with myself and Eric. And we can help guide you to the right people in the right places. Yeah. So anyways, guys, we're going to do a little class on Friday here on how to do virtual real estate. Hope you guys join us for that. And again, I just want to thank all of our guests, and we're here for you. So we'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Be well.